Welcome to part 9 of creating a 2D platformer using libGDX. And what we're going to do today is we're going to be doing two things. The first thing that we're going to be looking at is moving our character left and right and jumping, not with the keyboard, but with on-screen controls, because this way we can use this as an app or an Android or iOS app, opposed to using it just as a desktop game. So that's the first thing we're going to do. The second thing is we're not going to have enough space to do everything we want to do on the screen, so we need to do things outside of the screen. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to put in a couple lines of code that will allow us to move the screen left and right, and that's going to be a neat thing that we're going to be trying to do too. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is the arrows, and I actually already created a file for the arrow keys. I kind of just did this very quickly, so they don't look very good, but there they are. And you're going to notice that I have all 4 of them in here. Now we're not going to be using this down arrow, so we're going to be only working with the left, right, and there. And they're all, this image here is 128 by 128, so each of these arrows is 64 by 64. And that's going to be what we're going to be using to actually touch using the Nexus device or Android device. What I will also do is I will record a video of us messing with the Nexus device at a later time. This way you can kind of see what the demo looks like. So let's get started. So we have lots to do, not a lot of time to really do it in, so let's look at the game itself. And we're not going to be creating any objects for this. We're going to kind of create a couple rectangles though. So we're going to come over here at the very top, and we're going to create a rectangle for buttons. Private, thank you. And we're going to rectangle, and we're going to do left button, right button, and we're going to do jump button. Okay. We are also going to have a sprite for each one of these, and that sprite is going to be called sprite left button, sprite right button, and sprite jump button. Okay, and the last thing we need is a texture. We're going to be calling this button texture in case we use any other textures, and that's what we're going to be using there. So let's load some of this information up. The first thing that we're going to be doing is we need to let's draw things onto the screen. That's going to be probably the easiest thing to do. So button texture equals new texture, and we're going to be looking at the internal files. Files.internal, and the path to it is sprite.arrows.png. Then we need to take the left button equals a new sprite, and the sprite is going to be from the button texture, and it's from 0, 0, and it's 64 by 64. Semicolon. The right button is equal to new. Uh-oh, why don't you like this? Change left button. Oh, my bad. We're going to do sprite. It's sprite left button, sprite right button. I probably should have named this better, but I'm not thinking originally right now. Sprite button texture. So this is the first time we're actually using the texture in multiple sprites. So we're going to be kind of doing that when we do animation too. So the x coordinate is going to be 64, the y coordinate is still there, and it's 64 by 64. The last sprite that we need is the jump button sprite, and it's going to be new sprite, and we're going to do button texture, and we're going to do 64, 64, 64, 64, and last but not least 64. Boom. So now we've loaded the texture up on each one of these sprites here, and just so we know better, we're going to do sprite left button dot set position, and we're going to set the position up about 20 by 20. The sprite right button set position, and we are going to move it over a little bit, this way we don't have any conflict. So, oh, I meant to hit left and I really hit right. So we're going to make sure that they're far enough apart, and we have a little bit of space in between. And the last thing that we have is sprite jump button dot set position, and then we are going to be moving that to the opposite side of the screen, which is 800 pixels. So, and our buffer is 20 pixels from the side of the wall, so that should be 800 minus 84, which is the width of the thing. So that would be 716. So we're going to run this, making sure we can see all of our buttons, which we can't. Oh no! What we forgot to do is, even though we created the sprite, we forgot to draw the sprite. Oops. So we're going to go over to our draw. We want to make sure that they're on top of everything, so we're going to be making sure that it's after all the draw stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to do sprite left sprite dot draw batch, sprite right button dot draw on batch, sprite jump button dot draw batch. Done. So now we should be able to see it. There we go. So we have our buttons on there and so on. So let's make our buttons work. So the first thing we need to do is to make our buttons work is we need to create the hitboxes for our fingers. So the way we're going to make our hitboxes for our fingers is we will have a left button equals new rectangle, and we are going to be creating the rectangle at 20, and it's going to be 64 by 64. The right button equals new rectangle 20, and basically we're looking at the starting positions here. So 20 by 20, 64 by 64 is the width, and jump button equals new rectangle, and then we're going to do one there, and 64 by 64. So that doesn't really change anything. All we did is created hidden rectangles. So what we're going to be coming over here, and we're going to look at input. Now we could handle this as like it is. We have a couple methods we can do this. Input dot is touched. Now what this does is if it is touched at any point, it'll take the very first or the latest or the first touch on the screen, and if you let that one go up, it goes to the next touch. We do not want this to happen. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a for loop. So we're going to have it start off at 0, and we're going to run for 5. This just means that we're going to handle 5 touches each each time. So, is it touched I? And if it isn't, we skip it. Okay, so do we have a touch 1? Do we have a touch 2? Do we have a touch 3? Then, what we're going to do is we're going to create another rectangle. Actually, the first thing we're going to create is a vector 3, and this is touch position. Now, all this is doing here is we're going to take in the x and y coordinates of the actual touch. So we're going to do input.get x. But again, if we do this, it will be the first one. So you need to make sure you put I in there, comma gdx.input.get y, and put that in there. And we need to put a z in. We don't care what z is, so we put there. Now, this is the touch in real space, meaning if I was on a Nexus device or something, or an Android device, what we could do is it would take the actual touch in resolution for that particular screen, not in game space. Game space is always 800 by 480 because we predefined it in our program. If you want to change it, you can change it anywhere. But it's important for us to be able to do that. So the way we're going to do this is we need to get the touch position. So the way we do this is we camera.unproject, and then we do touch position. This will convert the pixels or the screen resolution to game space for us. It's really, really important. So unproject that on there, and then we create a rectangle called temp. Actually, I think we may have one called temp already. So let's do touch equals, and let's change rectangle. That's what I did wrong. Okay, and we're going to do new rectangle, and we are going to do touch position x minus 16. Actually, we'll make these 16. Touch position y minus 16, and a 32 by 32 box. This just helps us create a box around our finger, and then we can just say, hey, does it touch this, does it touch this, does it touch this, and then do what we need to do accordingly. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do player 1, not player 1 because we do not need that. If touch dot overlaps, and we are going to do left button, then player 1 dot move left delta, and it's exactly the same thing that we did up above for keyboard input. Now we're just handling it for the mouse and touch. Touch dot overlaps right button, player 1 dot move right, GDX dot graphics dot get delta time. Bam, done. And then if touch dot overlaps jump button, player 1 dot jump. So let's play this out. This should work on our screen as well. If we touch this button, we move this way. If I hit this jump button, I can jump and move. Boom. Okay, and I can do it that way. So let's see if I can actually move my mouse. I'm on a laptop and I have a touchpad, so let's see. There we go. Now if I want to, I really can't do two buttons at the same time. Not with the current setup I have. But these buttons are working perfectly, and he's moving around the screen great. Now the second part that we have to deal with is actually what we're going to do is we're going to split that into another video. This way I can explain it a little bit better. So hopefully you guys you have the everything on the buttons, and I will take care of this in episode, I think 10 is next. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you